Her laugh sliced through the dining room like a dull knife, fighting its way through overcooked pie. Loud, sharp, mean. I mean, come on, she said, spinning the stack of matte black cards between her fingers like they were cheap drink coasters. Did you make these yourself at some copy shop? She did not even look at me when she tossed them straight into the kitchen trash. One careless flick. Nobody cares. The sound of the garbage bag crinkling felt way louder than it should have. Her cousin Brian snorted wine through his nose. Her mother, Donna, the undisputed ruler of the country club crowd, let out a soft laugh like she was trying to be polite about it. Well, it is the thought that counts, dear, she said. I did not move. I just kept carving another slice of turkey. Past the cranberry sauce. Smiled the same smile I had worn for years. The one I perfected over more than a decade of being treated like invisible dust on their expensive rug. What kind of title even is this? Her brother Kyle muttered from the side table. He must have caught a glimpse before the cards hit the trash. Executive partner? Sounds like a scam. Like one of those pyramid things. I think it means he owns one vending machine, another cousin added. More laughter. If you are listening to this right now and you are one of the people who has not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. It helps stories like this keep coming. And trust me, you are going to want to hear where this goes. I did not react. I never reacted. My job was not to perform for them. It never was. They never understood that silence can be a weapon. If you let people talk long enough, they tell you exactly who they are. So I waited. Then Robert spoke up. Uncle Robert, my wife's father's older brother. His eyesight was going and his hands shook a little. Not the guy anyone expects to change the mood of a room. He had been quiet all night, slowly sipping a glass of Pinot Noir, watching the whole thing like a tired man who had survived 3 divorces and 2 hostile boardroom takeovers. While everyone else was laughing, he wandered into the kitchen. I saw him kneel down by the trash and pull one of the cards out like it was something valuable someone had thrown away by mistake. He adjusted his glasses, squinted, then he froze. The card started trembling in his hand. His other hand slipped. The wine glass fell and shattered on the tile. The stem snapped clean. Everyone turned. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Even the family dog stopped chewing on the roll he had stolen. This title, Robert said. His voice was thin and confused. Is this real? Nobody answered. He looked at me, suddenly very sober. You are the executive partner of Triarch Equity. I nodded once. Calm. Steady. My wife's fork clanged against her plate. Wait. What is Triarch? Robert cut her off. You do not know? His eyes darted back to the card. You threw this away? He asked, stunned. Her father, Mitchell, spoke from the other end of the table. His voice was annoyed. Do not start, Robert. But Robert ignored him. He stared at that card like it might explode. Triarch just won the federal warehousing bid, he said. The one every East Coast logistics firm was fighting over. He swallowed hard. You know who lost that bid? Silence. We did. He pointed straight at me. He is the one behind it. Nobody laughed anymore. I reached for the gravy. I told you it was a strong quarter. My wife blinked like she could not process the words. One of the younger cousins finally spoke. What is federal warehousing? The aunt beside him whispered something about military contracts. I took another bite of turkey. It was a little dry. Not terrible. Just forgettable. What I will never forget is the sound of their confidence breaking. Like glass cracking on tile. You could feel it. That shift from mocking to unsure. That was when I knew I did not need to say another word that night. The silence would handle it for me. Robert found me later on the back patio. The rest of them were still inside, probably arguing about cranberry sauce brands like it mattered. The cold air bit hard, but his voice came out low and sharp. I thought Triarch was a ghost company, he said. Quiet bids. No public board. He stared at the card again. You are the lead partner. I did not dress it up. I just nodded. He leaned against the railing like the wind had been knocked out of him. My God, he whispered. You are the one who beat us on the Port Archer contract. The federal logistics deal. He looked up at me. We spent 8 months chasing that. His voice cracked at the end, like he already knew the answer but did not want to hear it. Closed last Tuesday, I said. His mouth stayed open. I could see the math running through his head. His firm needed that contract to hold their East Coast presence together. It was not just a deal. It was their lifeline. From inside the house, laughter burst out again. Probably Kyle taking another swing at my title. I heard someone yell, I bet he printed those at Staples. Robert did not laugh. He was sweating now. Does Mitchell know? He asked quietly. He meant my wife's father. No, I said. Not yet. Uncle Robert let out a long breath and pinched the bridge of his nose like his head suddenly weighed too much. Damn, he said quietly. Then again, damn. He looked up at me, eyes sharp now. You realize this hits half our storage pipeline. You have basically forced us into subleasing space on our own routes. Then he paused and shook his head. And Mitchell is still in there making jokes about you like you are somebody's assistant. I shrugged. People believe what they want to believe. He studied me for a few seconds. You are not going to tell them, are you? Would it change anything? I asked. His jaw tightened. It would embarrass them. I took the card back from his hand and slid it into my wallet. They have had all night to figure it out. I did not wait for him to answer. I just walked back inside. The lights, the noise, the smug voices all felt disconnected now. Like they belonged to another room, another life. None of them matched the man Uncle Robert had just realized he had been sitting across from. I said my goodbyes politely, kissed my wife, Lauren, on the cheek. She barely looked up from whatever shallow conversation her cousins were still circling. Heading out? She asked, distracted. Yeah, I said. Early call in the morning. She smirked. More of your little empire to manage. Same tone. Same laugh she had used all night. I smiled and nodded. Something like that. Then I left. The truth was, I had not even planned to bring those cards. They were not meant for her family. I had printed a new batch that week because my old title was no longer accurate. The ink was barely dry when I slipped them into my coat pocket. What they did not know, and would not learn until much later, was that Triarch Equity had finalized 3 acquisitions that same week. Not just the federal contract. 3 feeder companies too. Firms that handled warehousing technology, security, logistics, and packaging. Every route her family's company depended on. They were not just about to learn who I was. They were about to learn what I owned. And it would not come through headlines. It would arrive on balance sheets. Quiet. Efficient. Final. By Monday morning, the whispers had turned into phone calls. Lauren's phone would not stop buzzing. She sat at the kitchen island, coffee untouched, scrolling through group chats that had shifted from mocking jokes to frantic messages. One cousin sent a link. Another sent a screenshot. Then the call came from Brooke. Brooke had appointed herself the family's unofficial keeper of business gossip. She worked procurement at Ridgemont Group, one of the mid-level vendors that supported her family's entire logistics chain. Lauren, Brooke said, breathless. No small talk. Tell me this is not real. Tell you what. Lauren said, laughing. My husband? What did he do now? Did he take over Norville Supply? Lauren laughed harder. No. He still runs that little startup of his. Something with packaging. Brooke did not laugh. No, she said. You do not understand. Norville is gone. Absorbed. Folded into something called Triarch Equity. Effective last Thursday. Our emails are already bouncing back. Lauren blinked. Wait. You are serious? I work with them, Lauren. Half our first quarter inventory ran through Norville. Now every contact address is redirecting to Triarch domains. There was a pause. Did you know about this? Lauren stared at her reflection in the microwave door. No, she said slowly. I did not. Brooke hung up. No goodbye? Lauren set her phone down. The house felt too quiet, too balanced, like everything was about to tip over. She stood up and walked toward my home office. The door was not locked. It never was. I never needed locks. My laptop was still open on the desk. She hesitated, then moved fast. She did not even know what she was looking for. Maybe proof this was all a coincidence. Maybe something she could laugh off later. What she found stopped her cold. A folder titled Confirmed Contracts First Quarter. A spreadsheet with over 40 companies. Norville. Castor Logistics. Turnfleet. Email threads from e.parker@triarch-holdings.com. An internal memo welcoming 6 new logistics coordinators to Triarch's Atlanta division. All names she recognized from her father's vendor network. Her throat went dry. Then she heard the shower upstairs shut off. She slammed the laptop closed and backed out like she had stepped on broken glass. A few minutes later, I came downstairs. Towel around my waist. Hair still damp. Calm. She was back at the kitchen island, staring at the marble. I did not look surprised. You went through my files? I asked quietly. She did not answer. She did not have to. The laptop was still humming softly in the office behind her. I poured myself a cup of coffee. No sugar. Took a sip. Then, without anger, without pride, without any edge at all, I said, next time you throw something away. I looked at her. Read it first. She opened her mouth. Closed it. There was nothing she could say that would not make it worse. Because in that moment, it finally hit her. This was not one lucky deal. Not a fluke. Not a coincidence. This was a system. And it was not the kind her family played tennis with. What she did not understand yet was that this was not one clean move or a lucky chain reaction. This was a lattice. A web of acquisitions, legal bridges, holding companies with real power behind them. Layers built on purpose. Quiet coordination. Lauren thought I had been messing around on the side. Playing businessman with safe money. A harmless little project to keep myself busy. She was wrong. Completely wrong. The man she laughed at for printing his own business cards had just absorbed 3 of her family's legacy vendors into a company she could not even pronounce correctly 2 days earlier. Later, she told me she remembered Thanksgiving differently once the pieces started fitting together. When Uncle Robert asked if the card was real and the room went cold, she had laughed it off, tried to smooth it over. Robert did not laugh. And once Mitchell saw what was already unraveling, neither would he. Because at that point, it stopped being about pride. It became about control. And she finally understood how little of it her family actually had left. I did not hear this part myself. She told me later. It was close to midnight. The house was quiet in that unnatural way that only happens when something bad is sinking in. She came downstairs for water and heard her father in the kitchen. She said his voice sounded wrong. Not loud. Not confident. Tight. Careful. Like every word hurt to say. She stopped in the hallway and listened. Mitchell had his back to the doorway, phone pressed to his ear, one hand gripping the island, the other rubbing his temple. No, he was saying. Charles confirmed it. The bid is gone. They locked the whole thing under an umbrella group. Triarch Equity. A pause. No, it is not public. That is the problem. Quiet as hell. Nobody saw it coming. Another pause. Everyone expected Norville to roll into first quarter as our primary supplier. Now we are scrambling. Lauren said her heart skipped when she heard the name. She stepped into the kitchen. Dad. He turned, startled. His face was red, not from drinking, but from stress. He muted the phone. What are you doing up? I heard you say Triarch, she said carefully. His expression changed. Defensive. Sharp. Yes. And she swallowed. That is the name on Ethan's card. She told me he just stared at her. Like the sentence did not register at first. Then it hit him. Your husband is connected to Triarch, he said. She did not answer. She did not have to. Mitchell let out a dry laugh and shook his head. Jesus Christ. No wonder Robert looked like he had seen a ghost. She walked closer to the counter. You were saying his company beat yours? It was not even a contest, he snapped. They came in under the radar. Swept the contract. Bundled logistics, security, fleet management. Everything. He exhaled hard. This is bigger than one deal, Lauren. We are exposed. Robert says they have influence in at least 4 feeder companies. I do not even know what we are tied into anymore. She told me that was the first time she had ever heard fear in her father's voice. The man who once told a state senator to wait his turn now looked like someone who realized the line had moved and he was no longer in it. She sat down at the island. The stone felt cold under her hands. He never talked about it, she said. Not once. I thought he was still running that small firm. The subscription box thing. Mitchell scoffed. That was probably cover. You ever ask why he was always on his laptop? She nodded. I looked. Friday. That got his attention. And I saw the contracts. Norville. Turnfleet. Castor. There are more. Mitchell leaned forward, both hands on the counter now. So he is not just involved. He paused. He is Triarch. Lauren told me she did not know what to say after that. All she could see was Thanksgiving. The laughing. The mocking. The way she threw my cards away like trash. The way she dismissed me in front of everyone she trusted. And now, days later, the name on those cards was tearing through her family's influence from the inside. And she had invited it in. She said the heat in her face felt deeper than embarrassment. This was not just about our marriage anymore. It was about everything she had assumed was permanent. Power, status, control, and how she never noticed the quiet storm building in the man sleeping beside her every night. Do not tell anyone yet, Mitchell said, pacing. We need to understand how deep this goes before we make it worse. But it was already worse. She said she could feel it in her bones. Triarch was not some lucky startup. It was a machine, built carefully, piece by piece. I never chased headlines. I never dressed for attention. I chased leverage. And with every vendor that slipped away and every contract that disappeared, her father's empire was bleeding. And I was the one holding the blade. Lauren stood up slowly that night, her hands shaking. For the first time in her life, She did not know which family she belonged to anymore. Just after sunrise, her phone rang. Uncle Robert. She stared at the screen before answering. The last time they spoke, his voice had already started to break. This time, when Uncle Robert called, his voice was different. Controlled. Heavy. Like a man who had finally mapped out a fire and realized it was already burning past the point of stopping. Lauren, he said, no greeting at all. This is not just about Norville. I have been digging. She stayed quiet. Coffee in her hands. Bare feet on the cold tile. He has been buying feeder companies, Robert continued. Small ones. Regional. Logistics. Packaging. Fleet services. Distribution. Routing. Some of them were barely hanging on. She turned on speaker and set the phone down, needing both hands to steady the mug. He did not just outbid us, Robert said. He saved them, rebranded them, folded them under Triarch Holdings. And nobody noticed. Her voice came out thin. You are sure it is him? I traced director filings, Robert said. It is indirect. But your husband's fingerprints are everywhere. His name does not always show up, but the limited liability company patterns, the board reshuffles, the email redirections. It is him. The structure is intentional. The silence is intentional. She tried to laugh, but it sounded brittle. He is not that strategic. You said that last week, Robert snapped. And now half your father's vendors have changed their contact domains. Silence. He never bragged, she said quietly. Mostly to herself. No, Robert agreed. Because bragging gets you seen. He did not want to be seen. He wanted to own. She opened the laptop again. The same spreadsheet she had avoided since Friday. It was still there. The acquisition roadmap. Only now it made sense. Every company had a role. One handled dry goods storage. Another ran climate-controlled fleet dispatching. One managed regulatory compliance. Another built artificial intelligence routing software for final mile delivery. She clicked the integration tab. Third quarter forecast. Complete systems integration. Supply chain ownership, bolded. Projected margin control, 72%. She stared at the number. I did not just build a business. I built control. Not loud. Not flashy. Locked down. And the worst part was how it happened. Right under their noses. While they laughed about my little hobby, I had threaded vines through the foundation of their entire regional operation. I did not own every piece outright. I did not need to. Every piece was tied to me. He is not just a vendor anymore, Robert said. He is the spine. Pull him out, and half the operation seizes. Lauren gripped the edge of the table. Her father had built his empire on handshakes and ego. He never planned for someone like me. Someone who did not want the spotlight. Someone who did not care about club invitations or praise over dinner. She remembered her words from Thanksgiving. Nobody cares. The irony burned. I did not need anyone to care. While they built image, I built infrastructure. I need to talk to him, she said suddenly, standing. Robert exhaled hard. Do not threaten him. Do not poke him. He is holding the system in balance. The moment he feels pressure, he will let it collapse on purpose. His voice dropped. And then we are all done. The line went dead. Lauren stood alone in the kitchen, heart pounding. The house felt different now, like it was built from borrowed brick and paper confidence. And at the center of it was me, the man she thought she understood, the quiet one at family dinners, the one who took the jokes and paid the bill, the one who said nothing when her father mocked startup toys and hustle hobbies. That man had wrapped their world together slowly, like vines tightening around a stone mansion. And if I decided to pull, the whole thing would groan, crack, and fall. The boardroom had never been this quiet. Usually it buzzed with posturing, interruptions, dry jokes, ego-filled speeches about dominance and growth. Today, there were no slides, no screens, just paper folders, open laptops, and panic hidden under expensive cologne. Her father stood at the head of the long walnut table, sleeves rolled up, jaw locked. The veins in his hands bulged every time he gripped the chair. Lauren sat 2 seats down, arms crossed, watching directors who suddenly could not meet her eyes. Everything is compromised, Mitchell said flatly. Norville is gone. Castor is not renewing. Turnfleet redirected their entire routing to Triarch infrastructure as of last Thursday. Can we cancel? One director asked. We tried, Mitchell snapped. There are no cancellation clauses. Every agreement is sealed tight. Precision work. A younger board member raised his hand. Do we even know who Triarch is? There is no organizational chart. No press. No chief executive officer profile. Lauren did not speak. Her father did not look at her. He glared. But it was her mother who finally said it. Quiet. Sharp. You told us he was harmless. The words hung in the room like a smoke alarm no one could reach. Lauren felt heat rush to her face. Her skin crawled. Her throat was dry. And for the first time, everyone in that room understood the same thing. The man they laughed at was not harmless. He was structural. Lauren wanted to say something. Anything that might lift the weight off her chest. But what could she say? That the man she married, the man she talked down to at family dinners, had just outmaneuvered every executive in that room. That while she rolled her eyes at my quiet business talk, I had been laying groundwork that none of them even noticed. That she laughed, actually laughed, while throwing away the business cards that now stood between her family and a full logistical collapse. Her silence said everything. One of the senior advisors, a man who had been close to the family for decades, leaned back in his chair and finally spoke. I warned you years ago, he said. Arrogance blinds faster than failure ever will. No one argued. Her father opened a folder. Inside were copies of supplier agreements signed over the past year. At the time, they had looked routine. Favorable terms. Slightly aggressive scheduling language. Nothing alarming. Except now they saw the truth. Every single contract had been drafted by Triarch subsidiaries operating under different names at the time. Quiet. Clean. Strategic. I did not need a seat at that table. I owned the floor beneath it. We are entangled, one executive muttered. If we try to pull out now, we lose supply for at least 6 months. That is half our distribution cycle. That would destroy the first quarter, another said. Tanking the first quarter might be our best case outcome, someone else whispered. Her father stood again, palms flat on the table. We regroup. We review contracts. We find legal footholds. Something. He looked toward his wife. Have you talked to him directly? She asked. He did not answer. Lauren finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. He will not come to the table. Everyone turned toward her. He already set the table, she said. We just did not realize we were eating off it. The silence that followed was not shock. It was acceptance. They had treated me like a footnote, a harmless bystander in their world, and the bystander had rewired the entire grid. Lauren looked down at her hands. Her wedding ring caught the light. She had worn it like proof of normalcy, of control. Now it felt different. Not a symbol of love. A reminder of who she should have seen, and who had seen everything while saying nothing. Saturday morning brought the storm. The Business Tribune landed quietly on driveways across 5 states. Some people ignored it. Some skimmed it. By noon, it was in every inbox that mattered. The headline read, From Invisible to Inevitable, How Triarch Quietly Captured the East Coast Supply Chain. There was no portrait below it. No smiling executive. No staged warehouse photo. Just a picture of a business card. Matte black. Minimal text. Embossed lettering. Ethan Parker. Executive Partner. Triarch Equity Holdings. Lauren stared at it on her tablet at the breakfast bar. Frozen. The same card she had thrown away. The same card she had laughed at. Now it was the symbol every boardroom was whispering about. And she was not laughing anymore. She opened the article. Her hands shook. It was precise. Surgical. A timeline of silent acquisitions. Smart contracts. Anonymous shell limited liability companies. Logistics. Packaging. Redundant supply chains. All consolidated under Triarch Equity in under 18 months. Unheard of. The journalist called it the quiet surge. One section broke it down by region. Another quoted chief executive officers praising the operational precision. Whoever is behind Triarch is not just a strategist. One quote read, They are a ghost in the system. They made sure no one saw them until they were the only option left. Another line followed. A masterclass in being underestimated. He played the fool long enough for everyone to underestimate him. Then he rewrote the rules. Lauren felt the floor tilt beneath her. That line was not analysis. It was a mirror. Her phone lit up. First came a message from a former internship friend. Is this your Ethan? Like your Ethan? Then her yoga instructor. Wait, is this your husband? You said he worked in boxes or something. Then her investment club chat exploded. Lauren, that is your last name, right? Parker. Holy shit. You are married to this guy. Why did you never say anything? Did you know? She did not reply. The worst message came 5 minutes later. A partner from a fund she had spent over a year trying to impress. If your husband ever looks for minority equity partners, let me know. Incredible strategy. Her hands shook. She almost dropped the phone. She remembered mocking me when I talked about building something lasting. The dinners where she cut me off mid-sentence to talk about her own deals. The time she corrected me in front of her parents when I mentioned distribution bottlenecks. Like I was the amateur. Now the industry was quoting my playbook. And she was getting tagged online like a guest at her own wedding. She opened Instagram. By the time she opened Instagram, it was already there. One of her friends had posted the article to their story. Dead serious. The caption read, "We thought he was the quiet one. Turns out he owns half the table." Underneath, someone had commented, "Is that Lauren's husband? Didn't she mock him at Thanksgiving?" That was when her stomach dropped. This was not just about business anymore. This was legacy, and her role in tearing it down. Her jokes, her eye rolls, her public dismissal. All of it was now part of the story people were telling. Nobody asked about her marketing startup deal anymore. Nobody cared about her networking brunches. Nobody mentioned her strategy workshops. They all asked the same thing. Is this your husband? And the more the question spread, the clearer the answer became. Not just that it was me, but that while she laughed at my business cards, I had quietly turned one into leverage and aimed it straight at the world she thought she ran. I came home a little after 8 that night. No announcement. No bags. Just the soft click of the door. Shoes off. The quiet weight of a man who did not need to explain himself anymore. Lauren had been sitting on the couch for over an hour. She told me later she had rehearsed apologies in her head. Tried to find words that did not sound desperate. Nothing felt right. The moment she saw me, she understood why. I looked at her the way someone looks at a hotel they used to stay at often. Familiar. Useful once. No emotion tied to it anymore. She stood. "I did not know," she said softly. I nodded once. Not surprised. Like she had finally caught up to a reality I had been living with for years. "I did not know any of it," she continued. "Not what you were building. Not what it meant. I did not see it." "You did not want to," I said. No anger. Just truth. She stepped toward me carefully. "But we can still." I stepped back before she could touch my hand. Not sharply. Not cruelly. Just like closing a door that had always been locked. She had simply never tried the handle. "No," I said. Soft. Final. I placed a folder on the coffee table. Plain manila. No logo. No weight except what it represented. She stared at it before opening it. Inside was a clean separation agreement. No drawn-out fight. No alimony. No property battles. Everything already divided. Neat. Efficient. Her face changed when she realized something worse. It had been prepared before the article came out. Maybe even before Thanksgiving. At the bottom of the final page was one handwritten sentence. "You threw the card. I kept the empire." Her throat tightened. "This is not you," she said. "You were never like this." "I wanted a partnership," I replied. "You wanted a performance." She shook her head. "I was wrong. You were loud," I said. That hurt her more than yelling ever could. I sat across from her, elbows on my knees. It felt less like a coffee table between us and more like a canyon. "I never asked to be admired," I said. "I just asked to be respected." "You were always so quiet," she said. "You did not listen," I answered. "You did not ask what I was building. You asked when I would be done playing entrepreneur. You called my meetings pretend work. You told your friends I was on my third maybe company." She opened her mouth. I finished. "And you made sure everyone else knew that too." Silence settled between us. Thick. Heavy. She looked back at the folder. No shouting. No drama. Just a surgical removal. And the truth underneath it all was simple. I was not doing this to her. I was done doing things for her. She looked up, eyes wet. "You will not even try to fix this." "I did," I said, standing. "For 7 years." I walked down the hallway. The same hallway I used to disappear into after tense dinners. She used to think I was sulking. Retreating. I was not. I was building. The distance she felt now was not new. It had always been there. She just did not notice it until she reached for a hand that was no longer waiting. Thanksgiving came again. The dining room felt larger, though nothing had changed. Same heavy oak table. Same chandelier. Same floral centerpiece her mother ordered every year without fail. What was missing was the weight. Lauren sat with her elbows tucked in, chewing dry turkey that tasted like guilt. The family still came, but fewer than before. Some stopped calling after the headlines. Others faded once it became clear her father's grip on the business was slipping. No one blamed her out loud. They did not need to. Her father looked older. Thinner. He sold off a third of the company in the second quarter. He called it strategic divestment. Everyone knew better. Uncle Robert retired due to health reasons. Lauren saw the resignation letter by accident. He never recovered from the fallout. The company did not die. It just stopped belonging to them. The laughter around the table was quieter now. No loud toasts. No jokes about jobs, clothes, or marriages. It felt like everyone had finally tasted humility and did not know how to swallow it. One of Lauren's cousins, Jenna, one of the few who still treated her like a person, leaned in with her wine glass. "Is he coming this year?" she asked softly. Lauren did not answer. She just shook her head slightly, eyes fixed on her plate. Jenna nodded. "I figured. Nobody said my name anymore. Not her father. Not her mother. Not the cousins who used to whisper behind champagne flutes about my pretend chief executive routine. I had become something else. A ghost in their quarterly reports. A shadow in supplier negotiations. A quiet problem their lawyers kept circling without solutions. What hurt them most was how clean my exit had been. No scorched earth. No public revenge. No speeches. I just left. And the silence I left behind was louder than any fight. Across town, in a converted brick warehouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, I hosted a very different kind of dinner. No place cards. No family politics. Just my people. Logistics leads. Equity partners. Legal architects. Technology heads. The ones who helped me build something while others laughed. The table was smaller. Warmer. Real. Between turkey and bourbon, I handed out updated business cards. They were simpler now. Just my name. The company. And a line at the bottom. "We do not explain. We execute." They laughed. Not mockery. Recognition. Most of them had been underestimated somewhere before. That was why they followed me. Back at the estate, Lauren excused herself before dessert. She said she had a headache. The truth was simpler. She could not stand hearing her own words from last year echoing in her head. Who even reads business cards anymore? She did now. She thought about my new table. The network that replaced her. She used to sit next to the man who built it. Now she was just a lesson attached to the story. The ballroom had once been her father's kingdom. He used to glide through events with a glass of scotch and a donor list. People knew his name. Men clapped his back. Women smiled for access. For years, he was not just in the room. He was the room. That night, something was different. The lighting was the same. The catering still came from the same company. The silent auction tables still held glossy catalogs no one really wanted. But the whispers had changed. They followed him from the valet to the reception. Quiet looks. Soft comments. Someone nudging a colleague. Words hidden behind champagne glasses. He tried to ignore it until he stopped in front of the sponsor wall. 10 feet tall. Framed in orchids. Lit like an altar. Near the center, just below the platinum donors, was a logo. Clean. Minimal. Familiar. Beneath it, in smaller print, a line read, "In memory of those who built in silence." He stood there longer than he meant to. What he felt was not grief. It was heavier. The feeling of watching your name slide off the ledger of relevance. A man walked past without greeting him. Another offered a polite handshake that carried no recognition. At the far end of the room, a woman whispered to her date. "That is Mitchell Langston, right? He used to run what was it?" The man shrugged. "I think Triarch absorbed them." That word again. Absorbed. He had spent his life stacking bricks. Now it had been folded into a footnote. He left early. No scene. No goodbyes. Just a quiet walk through the lobby and into the cold air. Lauren was already in the car. She did not ask how it went. He did not explain. They sat in silence while the engine idled. A couple walked out of the building laughing softly. The man carried a Triarch-branded gift bag. The woman held up a business card, reading it aloud under the lights. "Executive partner," she said, smiling. "That is the guy, right?" Lauren glanced out the window. She saw the card. Black on black. Raised lettering. Ethan Parker. Her ex-husband. No photo. No speech. Just a name and a title that moved systems. The woman slipped the card into her clutch as they walked away. Lauren looked down at her lap. Said nothing. Her father adjusted the mirror and pulled away from the curb. No one chased them. No one noticed they were gone. For years, they were the dynasty. The loudest voices. The ones who owned the table. Now their names did not even make the wall. Mine did. And this time, Lauren did not laugh. She lowered her head and finally understood. The man they mocked did not just succeed. He made them irrelevant.